And hello, everybody. This is the AMA, the Ask Me Anything for July 30th, 2020, for the Linchpin Athletics private Facebook group. And let's see here. We've got a good one with 27 comments, might be the top question here. Indeed, 27 is going to be tough to beat. Okay, let's dive right in. Now I scrolled by and it's gone. Here we go. During your time in CrossFit, what has been the biggest mistake or mistakes that you've seen people make on a consistent basis? It's a great question. I saw this last night as I was scrolling through them and kind of getting my mind around it, and there's so many potential ways to go with this, but here we go. So right off the bat, biggest mistakes, I just don't think people are patient. I think people get in a rush. They want world-class levels of strength within the first month, conditioning within the first month, and gymnastics within the first month. And none of that is appropriate or realistic, and you're setting yourself up for incredible disappointment. So going back, not to sound like a broken record, but there is a reason that the charter for CrossFit is mechanics, consistency, and then intensity. And I don't think enough people, when they get into CrossFit, spend time on mechanics and then on those mechanics consistently. Just operating at low intensity, operating at medium intensity, and not being, it's really tough as human beings not to be concerned about the load on the bar when you're looking at your buddy lift next to you. It's really tough not to worry about the time that the clock says, and when you write your time on the dry erase board and the whiteboard, when maybe other people are beating you. And to just let those things roll off your back and know that the best thing that you can do is ignore every other human being on the planet with regards to loading and time. Now, don't ignore every other human being if they're a wonderful person that's helping you move better and learn proper technique. But just to focus on yourself, your journey, and tune out all the noise, I think is one of the largest mistakes. Human beings, right? If there's something that says RX'd, and says prescribed, there's just something in our DNA that makes us feel like we have to do that loading, we have to do that rep range, we have to do that whatever, and to do anything shy of that is unsatisfying, unacceptable, will leave us shortchanged, and we are, not good athletes, not good whatever it happens to be. And that causes far too many people, myself included for sure, in my earlier days of CrossFit, to do things that are unwarranted, irresponsible, inappropriate, and potentially dangerous. And it's no one's fault but our own. It's just how we're wired as human beings. So patience, I would say that's one of the biggest mistakes I see new people make on a consistent basis when they get into CrossFit. And then the other one, again, not to beat a dead horse here at Linchpin, is the more is better. Man, everybody just wants to throw more and more into the session, and all that does is increase the volume, lower the intensity, and for the vast majority of people working out, it just lowers the results as well. And I can understand where it comes from. If 1 is great, 2 must be better. If 2 is great, why not 3? And so you start adding a little here, adding a little there, a little extra conditioning piece here, a little extra lifting here. I'm going to do my linear progression here on the side, etc., etc. And it just compounds and compounds, but it quite often does not yield the spectacular results that I think most people hoped for when they started lumping more stuff onto their daily routine. And I struggled with that a bit. I shouldn't say a bit. I struggled with it a lot. It was a huge mindset change when I first came into CrossFit, especially from my previous occupation in the SEALs. I mean, if you didn't work out for 2 hours, there wasn't a workout. I mean, 2 hours was probably the bare minimum acceptable session, if not 3 hours. I mean, it's just everything was a big deal, a long, slow grind, a tremendous amount of volume. And so now to come into CrossFit and and we weren't big lifters back then either. We were just the classic lifting that most people did, back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s before CrossFit really hit. Nobody was doing cleans and overhead squats and thrusters and things like that. You did flies or the pec deck, and you did bench press, and then you did decline bench, and then you did incline bench, and then you didn't squat. You did the leg press machine, and then you did leg extension, and you did leg curl, and then you did crunches. But I mean, nobody was doing GHD sit-ups, toes to bar, knees to elbows, V-ups, L-sits, none of this stuff. And so it was very classic isolation, machine-based working out, layered with a tremendous amount of just long, slow distance, and swims in the pool and stuff like that. And so and that all takes a long time. And there's a lot of standing around, right? I mean, you're gonna do a set of bench, you're gonna walk around for a minute, do another set of bench, you're gonna walk around for a minute, do another set of bench, you're gonna walk around for a minute, and you're gonna do that for decline, then you're gonna do that for incline, then you're gonna do that for your flies. And so that's what I did just all my life, really. And now I come into CrossFit, and we're going to do, this workout called Helen. And depending upon how great you are at Helen, 8 to 14 minutes later, you're telling me that I'm done working out for the day, for the whole day. I'm not supposed to do anything else. This workout took me 11 or 12 minutes, and that is it? No, ridiculous. I'm going to fall out of shape immediately. I have to do more. And so it was a heck of a mindset shift for the longest time. And, for the lifting portion as well. I was used to doing, bicep curls and all these other things which never got programmed. And I didn't do things like deadlift and front squat and et cetera, et cetera. And so to do things like that was a total paradigm shift. To not do them every day was a total paradigm shift. To train at high intensity was another paradigm shift, and to realize that more is not better. And I just decided to be all in for a while, because I did realize that if I didn't give this CrossFit thing an honest shake for multiple months, I couldn't really give an assessment as to whether or not it was superior or inferior to what I'd been doing for decades previously. And so, as we all know, we're all here having these conversations and having this talk because it works, and it works better than anything else on the planet. And so I was hooked, it worked, and now don't get me wrong, just because it became obvious that it worked and I was hooked, it still takes a while to undo decades of repetitive habits into your head. And yeah, so it's an ongoing process for all of us. But yes, I would say patience, mechanics, consistency, intensity, and then more is not better. And then I don't want to call a lot of competitor training a trap, but I think a lot of people fall into the competitor training trap. And that could be a whole another rabbit hole that we could talk about for a very long time. Because CrossFit and training for competition in CrossFit is I'm going to get my terms messed up. It's a different universe. It's in the same galaxy, but it's a different universe. Or should it be the other way around? I'm not sure. But point being, yes, CrossFit competitors are doing CrossFit. Everyday folks like you and I are doing CrossFit. So yes, we're both doing the same thing. We're both engaged in the same activity, in the same pursuit to a degree, but the needs are wildly different. The training is wildly different, and quite frankly, the toll on your system is wildly different. And that's okay. It just has to be a choice. I've spent the overwhelming majority of my career with CrossFit tracking athletes, interviewing athletes, talking to athletes. I'm married to a former individual athlete. Some of my best buddies in the space are former individual athletes. that comes at a significant toll to your body. And they obviously try to minimize it through intelligent training, obviously, but it's an impact and it's a hit. And a lot of those people are banged up, and a lot have surgeries, and a lot have nagging this and nagging that, and things that most people that are just trying to live a great, wonderful life, play with their kids, go for a hike, work in your yard, live as long as you can with healthy knees, backs, and shoulders, shouldn't go down that road. Don't need to go down that road. Now, if that's your lifelong dream and goal to compete in CrossFit and at a very high level and to have the fame and the accolades and the sponsors and all that, well, you are going to have to subject yourself to a dosing of volume and other things that wouldn't be smart for most of us. And I think a lot of people fall into that trap or start going down that road unnecessarily. Competing in CrossFit can mean a very large number of things. Does that just mean you like to work out, you like to stay in shape, you're competitive by nature, you love CrossFit, and every now and then when a local comp comes around or a local throwdown, you like to throw your hat in the ring and you go get sweaty, give some high fives, and life's great. That's cool. That's competing in CrossFit. You can do that on one workout a day with some accessory work. Or does competing in CrossFit mean you want to go to a sanctioned event, you want to be on the podium, you want to have a genuine shot at going to the CrossFit Games, you want to have your mortgage paid for through your athletic achievements? That's also competing in CrossFit, but couldn't be further from some of the other things that we're talking about. And so to lump them all in, I think does a bit of a disservice. And again, people just have to identify what are their goals, what's important to them, what are their priorities, and make sure whatever it is, you pursue that goal with your eyes wide open, knowing both the pros and both the cons. So that's kind of it. And I'm just it's rabbit hole central right now. Also attached to that question, I could say, and we're looking to rectify this at Linchpin, right? How to say this? I think just because you do something every day doesn't mean that you actually know a lot about it. It doesn't mean that you're an expert by a long shot. Most people eat 3 meals a day. Doesn't mean they know jack about food, metabolism, hormones, nothing. Doesn't mean, most people, if they do CrossFit every day, that actually doesn't mean that they really know a lot about CrossFit, even if they do it every day and they've been doing it every day for a couple years. They may know how it feels and things like that, but where it came from, the methodology, the principles, the history, the why we do what we do and why we don't do what we don't do are critically important to understanding and having a safe, long, happy, healthy career with functional movement and intensity. And I think, people's lives are busy, so that's fine. But a lot of people jump into it, start doing it, think they potentially know more than they do, and then start to go down some roads or do things that I would feel are inappropriate or potentially injurious, and they wouldn't have gone down those roads if they had a better education of the CrossFit methodology, programming, scaling, intensity versus relative intensity. I think if you just asked a lot of CrossFitters that question, with regards to CrossFit, what's the difference between intensity and relative intensity? How would you define that? And what is mechanics, consistency, intensity? And what is the theoretical hierarchy of the development of an athlete? And why is nutrition at the bottom and sports at the top? And after that baseline of nutrition, why is the next one metabolic conditioning? And then why is the next one gymnastics movements? And et cetera, et cetera. I just think there's a lot of great information out there, and knowledge is power. And I feel for us here at Linchpin, I'm always trying to, as best as I can, impart that knowledge and those lessons learned, because as far as I'm concerned, educating all of you to the best of my ability or sharing lessons learned, a smart community is a strong and healthy community. By sharing absolutely everything to the best of my ability that I know and trying to make everyone at Linchpin the sharpest CrossFit athlete I possibly can, to letting you know whatever I can about the methodology, about programming, about whatever, I don't feel that puts my job at risk. I actually feel that does nothing but make our community bigger and better, because, again, more intelligent, sharper athletes will get it. And people who get it stick around longer, have better levels of success, have less injuries, better overall happiness, and it's just good. So, that was a heck of a little rabbit hole there. Okay. Whew. I think that answers the question. So let's see. That was 27. Let's scratch this down. That was 27 likes on that one anyway. I see a 16. I see a 22 that I can't believe got 22 upvotes. The community was working in cahoots to get this upvoted, I believe. Question from, let's see. Will you write a book about your life and your experience with CrossFit? 22 likes on that. My short response is no. It says, I wish I could like this 100 times. Love reading CrossFit autobiographies. My gut says no. I am genuinely and sincerely appreciative and honored that somebody would actually think anything that I've done is remotely interesting or worthy enough of a book or something like that. That's very kind. I don't see my own life and experience in that light, if you will, as book-worthy, so to speak. And, I mean, who knows, right? You can't ever say no to nothing. So maybe that will change down the road. But if you ask me right now, I would humbly say that I decline, but thank you very much for even inferring that it may be worthy. All right, let's see here. That was 22. So I see a 16. Okay. All right, I think the 16 is next. Okay, so stand by. I'm gonna write something down here. Okay. From Kurt, 16. I remember when my knees were so bendy that I could sit on my heels. What, if anything, do you do for mobility and flexibility? My Marine Corps knees will thank you. Whew, that's a good one. I have multiple theories with regards to flexibility, mobility, stretching, whatever it is that you would like to call it. Some will be popular, some will make people upset. And it's just based upon the time I've spent in the community and personal experience, etc., etc. So, largely I think it's a use it or lose it kind of a thing. People aren't born, relatively speaking, stiff as a board, right? I mean, you look at kids and how they squat and they can get their arms over their heads. And then as adults, that goes away. But we stopped doing that, right? Like we stopped as a kid, squatting and moving your body and playing or whatnot. And most adults become sedentary and sit at a desk for years, etc., etc. And so in the use it or lose it thing, we generally seem to get a little bit tighter. But a lot of the functional movements that we do can start to force isn't the right word, but encourage us to get back into those positions that we have potentially neglected for a long, long time. Just an overhead squat, for example, is something that most adults never get themselves into that position in any way, shape, or form, and especially if you're working out in a way like I described that I did for years and years. the flexibility needed for an overhead squat wasn't replicated on the leg press, on the bench press, on flies, on a shoulder press, on whatever it was. I mean, so I could even spend 10, 15, 20 years of my life, quote unquote, working out and still be losing that sort of flexibility with every month that went by. So the mere fact that we're back engaged in that, be it with a broom handle, a PVC pipe, an empty barbell, of working on those positions, actively engaging our brain and our body to improve those positions, is a wonderful thing. Some people do great with static stretching. Some people do great with bands, a little PNF. Some people like, rolling around on the ball. You can get, a Theragun or some sort of thing to work on yourselves. And all of those things seem to help various people to various degrees. Okay, so for example, I think it just depends upon why you're tight to begin with. Are you just tight, or do you have some sort of mechanical impingement or injury? So for example, my shoulders are terrible, can't really get my arms over my head from dumb stuff in the military and motorcycle wrecks, and that is now just a mechanical difference in my body. That's not something that a band or a ball is going to fix. It's just my little buddy for life. And I do still work on my shoulders every day. That's not to say that I give up on them. And some things I have found that work better for me as to whether or not I'm going to be able to successfully overhead squat on any given day, through playing with a bunch of different overhead mobility drills, I've found what works well for me. So for you, Kurt, I would recommend, whatever it is, that part of your body that you're having a little bit of issue with, there's a tremendous amount of resources available for free on the internet, on YouTube, so on and so forth. And you may have to just, let's say it's your hips and knees. You just may have to find 8 or 10 of them for your hips, 8 or 10 of them for your knees, and go through a little sequence and a little experimenting to find what sort of stretch, what sort of time domain, is it static, is it dynamic, is it joint circles, whatever it happens to be, that just is like, a key in a lock, and it just helps what you have going on. So for example, for me, and actually I plan on doing another Instagram live video later on, I don't know, a week or 2, 3 weeks, who knows when I'll get to it, about warming up. Because while we have a prescribed warm-up every day, and it's a great general head-to-toe warm-up, on those rest days, I do say, if anyone's read it there in the private track, about how I encourage everyone to experiment with warming up. And while we provide this general head-to-toe warm-up, which will serve you very well, you may find that something works a little bit better for you, or something a little bit different is just in your wheelhouse, and you're only going to know that by playing around and experimenting. So for example, I sometimes deviate from the warm-ups that we do every day. That's because hopefully I'm not just the normal person. So I broke my pelvis in 2000. I've got plates and screws holding that together. My hips are quite painful based upon that. It takes me a long time to get below parallel because of that pelvic break. I've separated my AC joint. I've got, my neck's been crushed under boats and buds and stuff like that. So hopefully most people aren't dealing with that same stuff. So for me, I have to do a couple things each day on a regular basis that would probably be unnecessary for, quote-unquote, the average person just warming up. But that's just because it's based upon what my life has done to my body, and here I am. So, for example, we do as part of the cool down every now and then, cool down and stretching, we'll do the wall stretch for the leg, couch stretch, hip stretch, whatever you want to call it there. And we probably see that 1 to 2 times a week. I do that stretch every single day of my life for 2 hours on the right side and 2 hours on the left side, every single solitary day. That probably is not necessary for every human being walking the planet, but from my personal experimentation with stretching with my body, I can tell you that I notice a profound difference when I'm actively engaged in doing that stretch on a regular basis and when I start to blow it off. It is unquestionably noticeable. And so for me, it's part of my routine. That doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be part of your routine, but you're only going to truly find your routine with a little bit of experimentation. So that's so hopefully that helps you. Okay, let's see. That was 16. Okay. There's a 14. Adrian, 23 likes on this. Again, this is obviously other people were in cahoots on Adrian's question here. I'm going to go simple. What's your favorite dinosaur? I have absolutely no clue. No clue. Maybe it should be the T-Rex, not because I have short arms, because I don't see a T-Rex having good overhead pressing strength, and so maybe that's a good call for me in that one. All right, let's see what else we got. There's a 15 from Eric. Can we make a Linchpin shirt with your quote? The goal is simply to get fit, make it the best hour of your day, stay safe, turn up the music, high five some people, and blow off some steam. So remember that. Relax, have fun, and work out. Potentially, yeah, it's cool. That's a cool idea. Maybe we can throw that around. Let's see. I know there's a higher one here that I potentially missed. Okay, here's a 14. If you were asked to select the dream team to compete at the games, which 4 members would you pick today and why? Whew, man. You know, I could pick from stats or I could pick from my heart, Sam Briggs would be on there, beyond a shadow of a doubt. She's just good people, fun to be around. I like to hang around with my buddy, throw a spiel on there. And in all honesty, if it was just a 2-person party competition, if I had to pick one man and one woman, I'd pick Spiel and Sam Briggs. And that's it. Now I know that both of them have some holes in their game, blah, 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 but I just want to go. I want to have a good time. I want to be surrounded by people that make me laugh. Throw Dan Bailey in there, too. Why not? Guy's always enjoyable to be around. All right, let's see. Ooh, there's an 8. An 8. All right, I think we got one more here. Let me make sure that there's no more that have more than an 8. Then we'll get into this here. Oh, Colton, yours is a 6, but I'll touch on this real quick. You were asking about some older CrossFit Journal articles that are gems. Just so you know, maybe you missed it, every Sunday on the Linchpin Athletics private Facebook group, we're going to post a new article from just old classic CrossFit stuff, and you'll have the week to review it and read it. And we posted one this most recent Sunday, and I believe that the article was called Foundation. So be on the lookout for that. Every Sunday we're going to post a new article. And then, okay, I swear I'm not going crazy. This is so annoying. Okay, here it is. All right, let me do a quick scan through here and make sure that I didn't miss anything, because there's a lot of comments going on here. Okay. All right, some people say that things are clicking in their head. That's good. The more is not better. Okay. People say they need this talk. Good. Glad to hear it. Jill liked the use of the word cahoots. Let's see. Oh, Adrian wanted to make sure I saw the dinosaur question. All right. Talking about the warm-ups. All right, I think we're good. Okay. Let's see. So, final question here from Pedro. Any tips for folks hitting 4 workouts a week instead of the prescribed 5? I try very hard to never drop the workout I hate the most. Is that it? Okay, good one. So let's say, whatever it is, life, something just popped into my head. I'm going to write this down so I don't forget it. So, okay, Pedro, if you're going to have 4 instead of 5, I would say make sure at least one of those four, we go heavy at least once a week. Sometimes there could be more than one a week. There could be a classic heavy day and then a heavy day at a high heart rate. So if you're doing 4 workouts a week instead of 5, yes, I would make sure one of those is whatever the heavy day happens to be for the week. And then you've got 3 left, okay? And so let's say those 3 are spread out a little bit. If you could look at the week in general, it would be nice if you could see what was that heavy day, right? Was it a pull from the ground? Maybe it was a below parallel deal. Was it a squat? Was it a fast lift? Was it a slow lift? Was it overhead? What did it happen to be? And then on one of those other 3 days that you have left, make sure you're hitting the other things, pulling from the ground, going below parallel, etc., etc. Looking at those other 3 days that you're going to pick, it'd be nice if, one was a little bit on the lighter side, maybe one was moderate, so to speak, so you're getting some variance in there as well. And I do think you're on the right track of making sure that one of those 4 workouts, if there's one workout a week, every week, there's one workout that you don't like, and you're like, ooh, that's not my wheelhouse. And that's always conspicuously the one that you don't do when you're choosing 4 out of 5. Well, then you're just cherry picking the workouts. You're avoiding some variance and you're avoiding some adaptation. So we don't want to do that. So yes, I think it's a good call. Choose 4 workouts. Make sure one of them's a heavy day. Make sure one of them is potentially one that makes you go, that's really not my wheelhouse. That's going to be humbling. That's a great one to choose as well. And then you've got 2 left. Try to offset them based upon what the heavy day is and what that non-cherry picked workout is. And it's okay to have those other 2 ideally be ones that you really enjoy. I also would like to see one of those, it doesn't happen all the time, but usually over the course of the week, one of the workouts that we program is something interval-ish. It could be the 6x400 meter repeats, or it could be a mixed modality workout that is interval-ish. Like the other day we had the 3 intervals each for time of the farmer's carry, GHD sit-ups, dumbbell thrusters, and pull-ups. That was an interval workout because it had programmed rest between each. It would be great if one of those 4 workouts was interval-ish as well. So that would probably be high on my list. Okay, here it is. This didn't get a ton of likes, and I'm going to touch on it real quick as the final question here from AJ. It said, and this, because this loops in nicely to what I spoke about at the beginning of this video. AJ says, I saw your talk on your take on deload earlier this week. While it gave some insight into how you go about programming, can you share more about your thought process when you program for a period of time? How do you include balance in your programming for everyone? Okay. It's a huge question. But how do you include balance in your program for everybody? So here's the broad truth. It's literally impossible. 100% impossible. But there's a caveat to that. There's an asterisk, okay? So if we're programming for our athlete, okay? Just whatever you want to call he or she. It's our prototypical athlete. And for this athlete, we're going to take them with intelligence and specific design through rest days and strength days and interval training, short time domain, long time domain. We're going to vary the reps, the loadings, the whole 9 yards into this beautiful symphony that for this athlete that we have in our head, they're right at the beautiful border of ample training to develop appropriately, to get stressed from the stimulus, and then to have enough rest to recover, and then to get stressed from the stimulus, to have enough rest and recover, enough rest days to keep them physically and mentally motivated, the appropriate number of below parallel days, the appropriate number of overhead days, etc., etc. We're going to take this athlete through this journey that's never going to stop. However, that works well for that athlete, and it might work well for 2 people. Maybe you lucked out and they're both exactly like that athlete. Well, now, if 10 people show up to work out with you, even at 10, there's a good chance that somebody will raise their hand and be like, I'm tired today. I didn't sleep well last night. Life's been a little stressful. And somebody else is like, yeah, my diet's been terrible. Or somebody else is like, I played soccer over the weekend and my knee's a little creaky, so that workout doesn't work for me today. That's with 10 people. Well, now what if you have 25 people following along? 100 people following along? 1,000 people following along? Several thousand people following along? Even though you are putting out just textbook, beautiful program to make sure the ebbs and flows are exactly how they should and all of your bases are covered, just by the sheer numbers of it, something's not going to fit for somebody. Somebody's going to be tired when somebody's feeling energetic. Somebody's going to need a rest when the other person is peaking and having a PR. Somebody's going to be in the midst of the worst week of their life. Somebody else is just loving it. Somebody tweaked their hamstring, doing yard work. Somebody did something. That's just life. That's people. That's everything. So it gets back to what I was saying earlier this week, that my goal is to educate the Linchpin community to the best of my ability as to what we do, why we do it, what's the methodology, so that whatever it is that you have going on in your life, whether you're feeling refreshed, life's thrown a bunch at you, and for whatever reason you're extra tired this week, or just whatever it happens to be, you understand how to change, scale, or modify something to make the most intelligent decision for you, for your ability level, for the environment that you find yourself in, for the equipment that you have at your disposal, the whole 9 yards, because that is going to never ever stop. That need is always going to be there. So once again, a well-educated, intelligent athlete, a well-educated and intelligent community, in my opinion, is a capable, strong, proactive, supportive community that also knows how to solve problems and understands that they are always authorized to make the best decision for whatever they have going on in their life, because not everyone's on the same sleep cycle, not everyone's on the same anything cycle. So, and that's also why, these videos and everything that we do is all looped into this big long journey that we're on. And that's also why once a week we do program a workout not for time. And I highly encourage everybody to not run the clock, at least once a week, because it's a wonderful pressure release, both mentally and physically, good for the body, good for the soul, to keep training fun, and to do that over the course of a year. If you do that once a week, it's 52 workouts over the course of 52 weeks that you did not run the clock on, that you allowed yourself to move slowly or moderately and just tap the brakes a little bit to help keep you on track. And that's a big deal. And here's what I'm very big on trying to let the Linchpin community know. If for whatever you have going on in your life at that point in time, you need to do that for 2 days, not run the clock, 3 days, you need to do it for the whole week. You're like, you know what, I don't know what's going on, I'm just down in the dumps, body's tired. This week, I'm not going to run the clock. I'm going to knock down all the loadings just a little bit. Maybe I'll just do the scaled workouts. And I'm going to only move at a conversational pace. I'm going to do that for a week. I'm going to try to get some good sleep. And there's a really good chance that you'll come back the next week feeling like $1 million. And some people are just scared to let themselves do that. They think they're going to lose all their gains and all their fitness from 1 week. But quite frankly, the polar opposite is true. That you'll most likely come back, respond, and feel better than ever. And so anyway, that's yet another rabbit hole, but this is all the good stuff. So anyway, all right. Sorry that is a few minutes late coming on. My computer's fully updated now. So we shouldn't run into that next Thursday. Today is a rest day. As always, I encourage you to take it. And thank you, Linchpin community, for just being awesome. See you guys later.